I got a few more Calgary Flames signing news to talk about in this video. You gotta wonder, was it inspired by a couple of store names, as I'll get to. As first, earlier this week, Calgary Flames must have did some shopping at Nordstrom at Chinook Center, and then they went to the core downtown to Simon's as well, as it just worked out that way with the store names that the Calgary Flames are looking to continue to fill out their lineup for the 2020-21 season. And there's been still some questions on who's going to be on the said fourth line, considering that we lost Mark Jankowski and Tobias Reeder in free agency. You might say we have replaced some of that in terms of on the penalty kill, and I'm also intrigued by another player. So the couple players that I'm talking about as the store names that I mentioned were a clue that earlier this week the Calgary Flames signed Joakim Nordstrom, Swedish winger who can play another side of the wings as well. He did spend some time with the Boston Bruins, and you could also say he has over 400 games experience. In fact, I think he has exactly 400 games NHL experience, and hopefully we can provide some depth on the fourth line and on the penalty kill. And then the other player that they recently signed later in the week is Dominic Simone, another winger that could play on both sides, that recently played with the Pittsburgh Penguins. And also Dominic Simone also played some time with Sidney Crosby to open the ice up for him. So hopefully what Dominic Simone could provide for the Calgary Flames might open up some ice for, let's say, a Sean Monahan or Johnny Gaudreau or Elias Lindholm. So we'll take a look at where the Calgary Flames are at when it comes to the salary cap, as both team players that have joined the Calgary Flames have signed similar one-year deal worth $700,000. They're both one way, so this is almost filling out the fourth line very nicely. So first, let's look at Joakim Nordstrom, who's listed as a left winger. As I said, signed a one-year deal worth $700,000. He was originally drafted in the third round, 90th overall in 2010 by the Chicago Blackhawks, and he does have over exactly 400 games played, and 400 games played with between the Chicago Blackhawks, the Carolina Hurricanes, and most recently with the Boston Bruins. He has scored 31 goals, 37 assists for 68 points, and he has 71 penalty minutes. However, some might have a knock on him if you look at the advanced stats. As his career, he is a negative 35. In the playoffs, he has played in 46 playoff games over his career, as he has scored 3 goals, 7 assists, 10 points, 6 penalty minutes, and a minus 11. And then last season with the said Boston Bruins, he played 48 games, scored 4 goals, 3 assists for 7 points. So, and he is primarily going to be used on the penalty kill and filling out the fourth line. You can also highlight that he was not too sure if his name would be on the Stanley Cup, but he was a part of the Chicago Blackhawks 2015 team when they won the Stanley Cup that season, when he played 38 regular season games, he had 3 assists, and then minus 5. And then the playoffs, he did play in 3 games, no points. However, I think, not too sure if the requirement says if you have to play in half the season at least 1 game in the Stanley Cup final to be able to have your name on the Stanley Cup, but at least he's around that experience. But it doesn't hurt to take a flyer on someone that is paying him league minimum to fill out the fourth line, because you would have to wonder what was the fourth line going to look like for the Calgary Flames. Are we going to give Zach Rinaldo more time, or look at Glenn Godwin or Buddy Robinson? But at least with Joakim Nordstrom, he has 400 games NHL experience, so it's probably one of those perfect veterans that you can bring in that if you have to shuffle the line around and bring in the younger player that won't hurt him as much to sit out as opposed to, let's say, having a younger player here just with the team, but it wouldn't do him any good if he's just on the press box more often, where he probably could play more games and more time with the Stockton Heat. And he will be an unrestricted free agent after the season, as he's 28 years old. So that is Joakim Nordstrom. So they went to Nordstrom to pick him up. And then the next player we're looking at is Dominic Simone. This player seems to have a little more upside as well. I mean, he's a Czech player. Says both wings on the cap friendly, and a similar deal of 1 year worth $700,000. He was drafted originally with the Pittsburgh Penguins. He's only played with the Pittsburgh Penguins up to this point here, but he was drafted in the 5th round, 137th overall in 2015 with the Pittsburgh Penguins. But his numbers, well, overall in the NHL, he has played 173 games in the NHL altogether. He scored 19 goals, 45 assists for 64 points. And he is even for his plus-minus with 46 penalty minutes. And then in the playoffs, he's only played in 12 playoff games with the Pittsburgh Penguins with 4 assists altogether, -1 and 4 penalty minutes. He did not take part in the playoffs in the return-to-play plan. But what's very, very intriguing is he did have spent some time playing with Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin. So this sounds like a very versatile player that we picked up. I mean, last season with the Pittsburgh Penguins, in 64 games, he scored 7 goals, 15 assists for 22 points. But the season before, in the 2018-19 season, in 71 games with the Pittsburgh Penguins, he has scored 8 goals, 20 assists for 28 points. So potentially, we might have picked up someone that could potentially score 10 goals and 30 points altogether if he's utilized properly. And then in the 18-19, he only played in 4 playoff games. And then the season before in 17-18, where he played 33 games with the Penguins with 4 goals, 8 assists for 12 points. And that's where he got his 8 other NHL playoff games. So that's the signings that we have for the Calgary Flames, as we picked him up from Simon, which is the Simon store that is based out of Quebec City, but there is one in the core downtown at the shopping center in downtown Calgary. And I actually also did see Simon's at the Ottawa one at the Rideau Center. So I just kind of had to throw that joke in that earlier this week we did some shopping at Nordstrom, and then we picked something up at Simon's. And these signings aren't really exciting, not as much groundbreaking, but some of these signings that we make now, these could potentially be those role players that the Flames could be looking for that might pay off in the playoffs. And then the case with Dominic Simone, he is 26 years old, and he actually will be a restricted free agent after the season with arbitration rates. So with these players that we added in, and looking at the salary cap situation with the Calgary Flames on cap friendly, we have committed $78.9 million in the salary cap next season. Keep in mind it's $81.5 million is the salary cap, and there's, if you look at the cap friendly right now, there is 7 teams in the NHL that are over. You can actually be over in the offseason. I think you could be over up to 10%, but you need to get yourself under in order to play games in the regular season, whatever that is going to be. But with the $78.9 million that the Calgary Flames have committed for this upcoming season, they have roughly $2.59 million in cap space. And then there's 19 out of 23 players signed on this roster. And then organizationally, we got 41 contracts signed out of 50. And then a reserve list of 63 out of 90. But this also lists, we have 12 forwards listed right now. So we have 4 lines. I mean, I guess now with Joakim Nordstrom and Dominic Simone coming aboard, that the Zach Rinaldo could be that extra forward. Same with Buddy Robinson and Glenn Godwin, who it sounds like he could be knocking on the door as well. And although we only have 5 defensemen listed, but it does not count Oliver Shillington, as he still has to get signed for this upcoming season, as he still is a restricted free agent. We qualified him, but we haven't offered him a new contract yet. That's the only restricted free agent that the Calgary Flames have. And then we have the 2 goalies in Joakim Nordstrom and David Riddick. And then speaking of some of the players that I have mentioned in this video, especially on the Swedish side, as Joakim Nordstrom. He, as I know, he is buddies with Joakim Nordstrom, the goalie that we signed, which was the big fish that we signed. He also is, I believe, friends with Elias Lindholm, and he also trains with Oliver Shillington in the off season. So we got one player that is familiar with a few players that's on the roster right now. And then Dominic Simone, he just said he's excited and thrilled to come to the Calgary Flames. So it's always nice to see players that want to come here as well. But you still got to wonder with former players that we need to plug into the roster with only just over $2.5 million in cap space. Is there potential that there could be some other moves? I know that there's always these rumors out there that Calgary could be looking at maybe moving Johnny Gaudreau or David Riddick, but I'm going to say unless they say they want to leave Calgary, I don't see them being traded and don't see a need to make any trades with them. However, could we potentially look at maybe moving Derek Ryan? He still has 1 year left on his contract, but he is making just over $3.1 million. He is an unrestricted free agent. I know that's someone speculated that he could be potentially shopped around. He is a useful player on the 4th line that can guarantee to give you 10 goals and 30 points. Last season Derek Ryan in 68 games, he scored 10 goals, 19 assists for 29 points. Prorate that for a full season, that could give you almost 15 goals and 35 points. And then all 10 playoff games last season, he picked up 2 assists. But I know there's still some value to have those kind of players in the bottom 6, because if you still kind of look at the Calgary Flames, I know the term that's thrown out is top heavy, as it's obvious who is in the top 6. When you look at the cap hits, and I know we still have Milan Lucic's contract, but that's unmovable right now with all the bonuses. But with all the teams, right up against the salary cap right now, the only way if we potentially could move anywhere players is pretty much apples for apples, where the cap hit going out is going to be the same coming in. So it's almost negligible in that front. Just depends on the player. But I just have to ask, what do you think of these 2 signings? That it's more to round out the 4th line in Joakim Nordstrom and Dominic Simone. If you do go on Hockey Buzz, Todd Cordell, who is the blogger who follows the Calgary Flames and the New Jersey Devils, he seemed a little more towards negative on the Joakim Nordstrom signing in terms of all the advanced stats and being on the penalty kill. I still think we would have been better off still hanging on to Tobias Reeder if we wanted to keep him for the penalty kill. But Buffalo also, I saw, had the 2nd worst penalty kill in the league last year, so it probably was more of an opportunity for him in Buffalo. But I'd say Joakim Nordstrom would be somewhat of a replacement with that. And then Dominic Simone, I would say, would definitely be, would make a nicer, even more nicer replacement for Mark Jankowski. Seeing the numbers that he provided, and Todd Cordell seemed a lot more positive on that signing. And how I look at the signs myself is that I think they're solid depth moves. As you know, I'm intrigued by having someone who comes in who has played over 400 games in the NHL, has at least been around the team that won a Stanley Cup and would obviously have a role for him here. And then Dominic Simone, I would say his numbers look intriguing and sounds more versatile. That's someone that you can easily plug in anywhere in the bottom 6, or also can use, let's say, on the power play to open up more space for, let's say, Johnny Gaudreau or Sean Monahan. And sometimes when you look back at teams that win Stanley Cups, yes, they do have, their obvious, star players that you need to carry through 4 rounds. But these signs might be, those extra pieces that we can look back on whenever next season gets in the books and whatever the Flames do. That we would say they were nice pieces for the Calgary Flames after going beyond the obvious signs. So I ask you, what do you think? Was it worth shopping at Nordstrom and Simon's to pick up depth players? And where do you see them fit in the lineup? And potentially, what other moves can you see the Flames make for the salary cap or to plug in to fill out a 23-man roster for opening day, whenever that is going to be? So as I say, if you want to follow along with this Calgary sports fans journey, home of the Flames, Hitmen, Roughnecks, and Stampeders, I mostly talk Calgary sports on my YouTube channel, but I also do personal vlogs, attempt to comedy, and I also do share my experiences with them on the road or at a sporting event. So if that all sounds like you'd be interested to watch, to follow along with this Calgary sports fans journey, you know what you need to do. Just make sure you hit like, subscribe. I also have my other social media links down in the description below for other ways you can follow me. So welcome to the Sea Red, Joakim Nordstrom and Dominic Simone. I'm excited to see both of you players come to the Calgary Flames, and well, interested to see how you fit in with the Flames, with the roster. I mean, in the case of Joakim Nordstrom, he's already familiar with a couple players that I saw online. As well, we definitely have been picking up a lot more Swedes on the roster. I mean, we already have Rasmus Andersson, Elias Lindholm, Michael Backlund, and then, you got Joakim Nordstrom, Oliver Shillington, and Joakim Nordstrom. Those are all the ones that come to my mind right away. And I know we picked up a few more Swedes in the draft as well, or it's in the system. And then I said Dominic Simone. I think he's going to be very versatile throughout the lineup. So as I say, go Flames go, and I'll see you in the next video.